The twilight hours cast a soft luminescence over the biodome, with myriad alien plants radiating an eerie, soothing glow. Dr. Fiona Carter traversed the undergrowth with determined strides, her handheld scanner emitting gentle pings as it registered the vital signs of the surrounding flora. The air, typically fragrant with the scent of xenofoliage, now carried a tinge of something bitter, an indication of disturbance. "Unusual readings tonight, Dr. Carter?" inquired a voice over the comlink. "Yes, James," she responded, recognizing the voice of her assistant. "The bioluminescence levels have plummeted rapidly in Sector 5. It's unprecedented." Pausing beside a towering fern-like plant, its once vibrant lights now dimmed to a faint pulse, Fiona extended her hand, stopping just short of touching the delicate fronds. She was ever mindful of the fragile balance between humans and these extraterrestrial organisms. Each interaction bore consequences. "It could be a pathogen or environmental stress," she muttered, logging the data into a pad. "Or sabotage," James ventured, his tone half joking. "Not now, James," Fiona replied, her voice tinged with irritation, although she had entertained the thought herself. Sabotage was a rare but not inconceivable threat within the sanctuary. She pressed on, navigating a maze of low-hanging branches to reach a clearing where the ground was strewn with drooping, lightless flowers, a sombre graveyard of flora. "Thrin!" she called softly into the shadows, summoning the sentient plant-animal hybrid species that served as both flora and fauna within the ecosystem. The ground shimmered, and Thrin emerged, its form a graceful tapestry of vines and petals. In the dim light, its bioluminescent patterns shifted. Soft blues and greens danced across its surface, forming a visual language unique to its kind. "Thrin, what afflicts you and your kin?" Fiona inquired, observing the changing patterns, interpreting its response. The display settled into a steady, sombre flicker, a clear sign of distress. Thrin extended a limb, directing her to a nearby stream where the water, typically sparkling with bioluminescent algae, now mirrored the darkened sky. "Contamination?" Fiona pondered aloud, crouching to collect a water sample. "Or is something else tainting the water? Dr. Carter, should I alert Captain Harris? If it's contamination, we may need to secure the area." James's voice cut in through the comlink, his tone now earnest. "Yes, do that, James, and tell him it's urgent." "We could be facing a crisis," Fiona instructed, her gaze fixed on the dark water swirling around her fingers. Sealing the water sample and preparing for further tests, Fiona felt the weight of her responsibility tighten around her shoulders. This sanctuary, Earth's gesture of goodwill to the cosmos, was entrusted to her care. Failure here would not merely be a loss of life, it could fracture the delicate trust between humanity and the myriad species seeking refuge on their planet. "Whatever this is," Fiona whispered, determination stealing her voice as she headed back to the lab, "we will uncover it, and we will remedy it." Her resolve seemed to resonate with Thrin, whose vines began to emit a faint glow once more, a silent acknowledgement of her vow. Captain Oliver Harris stood before the large, transparent map of the sanctuary, his fingers tracing the softly glowing contours that marked the biodome's boundaries. The security control room was alive with the low hum of monitors and the occasional crackle of communications traffic. It was late, and the space was bathed in the cool blue light of screens displaying feeds from cameras scattered throughout the habitat. "Captain, Dr. Carter has requested urgent assistance in Sector 5, announced Sergeant Jenna Mills, puncturing the room's quiet focus. "She suspects possible contamination in the biomes." Oliver turned sharply, his expression a fusion of concern and curiosity. "Contamination? That's a first." "All right, Mills, assemble a response team. I'm on my way." His voice was decisive, imbued with the weight of command. As he navigated the metallic corridors toward Sector 5, his mind was ablaze with possibilities. Contamination could signify anything from a chemical spill to bioterrorism. The notion of someone deliberately endangering the sanctuary tightened his jaw. Upon arrival, Oliver found Fiona kneeling by the stream, her equipment arrayed around her like a field laboratory. The soft glow from her portable lights threw elongated shadows across the scene. "Fiona," Oliver greeted her, his tone softening to professional concern. "Talk to me." What are we facing? Fiona looked up, her features etched with frustration and resolve. It's premature to be certain, Oliver, but something is affecting the bioluminescent species. It might be chemical, it might be biological. I'm still determining. Oliver nodded, his gaze sweeping the area with a practiced eye. And the possibility of sabotage? Is that likely? Fiona rose to meet his gaze, exhaling deeply. I would prefer to dismiss it, but we can't overlook any possibilities. The symptoms emerged too rapidly, and Thrin signalled. Thrin communicated with you, Oliver interjected, his skepticism surfacing. Yes, in its own manner. It directed me to this water source, Fiona explained, gesturing toward the stream. Look, Oliver, I understand it seems implausible, but I've learned to heed their signals. There's a serious anomaly here. Oliver mulled over her words, his strategic mind plotting the necessary precautions. All right, I'll bolster security around the sectors and scrutinise the camera footage. If this is sabotage, we'll identify the perpetrators. Their discussion was abruptly interrupted by a rustling in the nearby bushes. Both turned, hands instinctively reaching for their tools. A scanner for Fiona, a stun gun for Oliver. It was Thrin, its vines adorned with dim, pulsating lights, advancing slowly toward them. Its movements were measured, each vine and petal conveying a grave caution. Oliver observed, his caution mingling with newfound respect. It appears Thrin indeed has something to communicate. Yes, and we must heed it, Fiona asserted, her tone firm. She faced Oliver, her expression earnest. I need to analyse these samples in the lab. Can your team secure the perimeter? You'll have all the support you require, Oliver promised, his voice now embodying collaborative determination. Let's unravel this, for Thrin and all the species we're sheltering here. As Fiona gathered her samples and Oliver issued orders into his comlink, an uneasy alliance between science and security forged a common cause. Both recognised that the stakes were high, not only for the sanctuary, but for the tenuous trust between humanity and the observant eyes of the galaxy. The sanctuary's laboratory was a hive of activity, illuminated by the stark white light of overhead LEDs. Dr. Fiona Carter navigated the space with brisk efficiency, moving among tables cluttered with petri dishes and microscopes that held samples from the impacted biomes. Her team, composed of xenobiologists and chemists, was deeply engrossed in their work, their faces etched with focus. Any progress, Dr. Zhao? Fiona inquired, leaning over the shoulder of her lead chemist, who was meticulously analysing the water sample data. Dr. Zhao shook her head, her expression clouded with frustration. It's baffling, Fiona. We've detected traces of a synthetic compound, possibly a pesticide, but its presence in our closed ecosystem is baffling. Fiona's brow creased in concern. A pesticide in a meticulously controlled environment? She addressed her team with renewed urgency. Let's broaden our scope. Cross-reference all recent deliveries and maintenance records. We need to determine whether this was an oversight or a deliberate act. As the team dispersed to follow her directives, Captain Oliver Harris entered, his posture tense with the weight of recent events. Fiona, we've reviewed the security tapes. There's a 12-minute gap in the footage from yesterday. A manual override. Fiona's heart sank. That timing can't be coincidental. It suggests sabotage. She sighed deeply, the gravity of the implications dawning on her. Oliver, this is more than an attack on the sanctuary. It's an affront to our diplomatic efforts with extraterrestrial entities. Oliver's expression hardened. I've already stepped up patrols and tightened security protocols. We're locking down the facility. We'll find the perpetrators. Their discussion was interrupted as Sergeant Mills burst into the lab, a digital tablet in her grip. Captains, this needs your immediate attention. She handed the device to Oliver, who quickly scanned the display. It's footage from an external camera near the service entry. It captured two figures in maintenance garb, but the image is too grainy for identification, Oliver relayed, passing the tablet to Fiona. Fiona scrutinised the images, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. They knew exactly what to do. We need to identify them promptly. Consider it done. We'll enhance the images and cross-reference them with our staff database, Oliver assured her, his voice firm with resolve. Fiona nodded, her focus returning to the lab's main monitor, which showed a live feed of the deteriorating biodome. The once vibrant hues were now subdued, signalling the spread of the contaminant. "We need a solution, team," Fiona declared, her voice echoing commandingly through the lab. "Zhao, prioritize isolating and identifying this compound. I want biodegradable neutralization options within the hour." Dr. Zhao acknowledged with a nod, her attention already back on her instruments, while the rest of the team sprang into action with precise movements. Oliver remained by Fiona's side, observing the flurry of activity. "You'll get through this, Fiona. You and your team are our best hope." Fiona managed a brief, strained smile in appreciation of his confidence. "We must, Oliver. The stakes are far too high." Time seemed to crawl as the team laboured under intense pressure. Eventually, Dr. Zhao signalled to Fiona. "I've isolated the compound, a derivative of chlorpyrifos, highly controlled and illegal. I believe we can neutralise it." A wave of relief mingled with adrenaline swept through Fiona. "Prepare the neutraliser. Let's strategize on deployment." Gathering around the holographic table to plan the neutraliser's distribution, Fiona felt a cautious optimism. Although the crisis was far from resolved, they were inching closer to a solution, to restoring not only the sanctuary's balance, but also the integrity of their broader mission. Under the sterile glow of the lab's overhead lights, Dr. Fiona Carter and her team meticulously prepared the neutralizer, a biodegradable formula engineered to eradicate the harmful pesticide without compromising the delicate ecosystem of the biodome. The atmosphere in the lab was charged with anticipation as they observed the mixture being synthesized by the automated chemical processor. "Ensure the dispersal units are accurately calibrated. We cannot afford any errors," Fiona directed, her tone imbued with urgency, yet steady. Dr. Zhao affirmed with a nod, diligently verifying the device's settings. "All systems operational, Fiona. We're set to proceed." In the Security Command Centre, Captain Oliver Harris kept an eye on the preparations through a live feed, his fingers tapping an anxious rhythm on his desk. He looked up as Sergeant Mills entered, her face etched with gravity. "We've enhanced the footage and successfully identified one of the suspects," she announced, handing him a digital file. Opening the file, Oliver's gaze hardened upon recognizing a known environmental activist with extremist views against the integration of alien species. "Excellent work, Mills. Let's take him in for questioning." Meanwhile, in the lab, Fiona supervised the loading of the neutralizer into several drones. "Handle this with precision, everyone. It's crucial that this succeeds." As the drones took off, the team congregated around the main monitor, watching as the machines dispersed clouds of the neutralizer over the contaminated waters of the biodome. Gradually, the bioluminescent plants started to revive, their lights intensifying in a vibrant display of colours. "It's working!" Fiona exclaimed, a smile spreading across her face as relief washed over her. The team shared a subdued celebration, their joy resonant in the tense air of the lab. Fiona turned to them, her eyes moist with proud tears. "Thank you, everyone. Your dedication is what brings our mission to life." Simultaneously, Oliver managed the detention of the activist. In the stark interrogation room, he confronted the suspect across a cold metal table. "Why sabotage the sanctuary? Your actions undermine the very existence you purport to safeguard?" The activist met his gaze defiantly. "This sanctuary is an aberration. Humans should not meddle with alien ecosystems under the guise of conservation." Oliver leaned in, his voice firm yet impassioned. "We're not meddling. We're striving to rectify historical errors, to provide a haven not only for them, but for all of us. Your actions could have jeopardized that." The certainty in the activist's eyes faltered as he looked away. Oliver pressed on. "There's still a chance for you to contribute positively." Back in the biodome, Fiona and her team meandered through the revitalized flora, their spirits buoyed by the visible recovery. Thryn approached, its glow bright and patterns intricate, signaling gratitude and renewal. "Seems you're feeling better," Fiona commented gently, allowing Thryn's vine to curl softly around her hand, the contact warm and affirming. "It understood us all along, didn't it?" Dr. Zhao murmured, observing their interaction. It always has, Fiona replied, her voice laced with awe. Sometimes we just need to listen more attentively. As dusk descended, Fiona and Oliver reconvened by the now pristine stream, their contemplation deep and silent under the starlit sky. We did well, didn't we? Oliver finally spoke, his tone reflective. We did, Fiona affirmed, then sighed. Yet there remains much to do, more to understand and preserve. Oliver nodded, his silhouette sharp against the night. I agree, and whatever comes, we'll face it together. Their collective gaze on the thriving biodome symbolised a tacit pledge to defend this delicate haven. For Fiona, each luminous leaf and tranquil water body underscored their mission's delicate yet profound responsibility, not as dominators, but as protectors. As dawn crested the horizon of the sanctuary, Dr. Fiona Carter stood atop a small hill overlooking the biodome. The first light of morning painted the sky in soft hues of orange and pink, casting a reflective glow on the vibrant, rejuvenated flora below. The crisis had receded, yet the morning's tranquility underscored the continuous vigilance needed to preserve this refuge. Captain Oliver Harris joined her, his presence a quiet pillar of support. Together, they observed the sanctuary come to life, resonating with the sounds of alien species greeting the day, a testament to the enduring resilience of life. It's beautiful, isn't it? Fiona whispered, her voice imbued with reverence. It truly is, Oliver responded in kind. And it's secure once more, thanks to the dedication of you and your team. Fiona gave a modest shake of her head. Not just us. This was a collective effort. This place reminds us of our duties, of our bond to something far greater than ourselves. Oliver regarded her, his expression laden with contemplation. You know, I once viewed this job as merely another posting. But being here, witnessing what we've achieved, it transforms you. Fiona's smile mirrored the burgeoning light. Indeed, it does. And it exemplifies what we can accomplish when we unite humans and aliens alike. Their exchange was gently interrupted by Thrin's approach, its movements more animated than ever. Its vines extended, softly caressing both Fiona and Oliver, offering a gesture of gratitude and connection that transcended species barriers. Seems you've gained a friend, Oliver remarked, his tone a blend of amusement and wonder as he observed their interaction. More than that, Fiona replied, watching Thrin with affectionate eyes. A partner in our collective journey. As they strolled back toward the lab, illuminated by the rising sun, Fiona was imbued with a revitalized sense of purpose. The sanctuary was more than just a project or facility. It stood as a beacon of hope, a testament to the strength of unity and empathy. We'll encounter more challenges, Fiona noted, glancing towards Oliver. But I believe we're prepared for them. Oliver nodded affirmatively. Together, we'll face whatever comes our way. For this place, for all its inhabitants. Please subscribe for more stories